Howdy, YouTubers. It's 4:21 on the 25th of February, 2013. 37 beautiful degrees. It's still beautiful out there. In Northeast Ohio, Geneva, WONT. Hello? Who? Sorry. Thank you. Have a nice day. Wrong number. Don't you just love them? Alright, let's see. We are now on part 7 of Christ, the Way, the Truth, the Light introduction. And it's part 6. We may have here take notice of what may serve to discover Thomas his mistakes, and what is the ground of Christ's assertion. Verse 4, which Thomas does little less than contradict verse 5, viz., that such as had any acquaintance with Christ did, according to the measure of their knowledge of him, both know heaven and the way to it. Hence we see these truths. Hi, honey. Oh, you brought me water. Thanks. I know. 1. Persons may have some real acquaintance with Christ and yet be, for a time, very indistinct in their notions about him and apprehensions. You almost got that on my computer, buddy. I'm sorry. And apprehensions of him. They may know Christ in some measures, and yet look upon themselves as great strangers to the knowledge of heaven, and be oft complaining of their ignorance in the right way to heaven. 2. Where there is the least measure of true acquaintance with Christ, with love to him, and a desire to know more of him, Christ will take notice thereof, though it be covered over with a heap of mistakes, and accompanied with much ignorance, weakness, and indistinctness. He seeth not as man seeth, which is good news to some that are weak in knowledge, and unable to give any good account of any knowledge they have. Yet one thing they can say, that he who knoweth of all things knoweth that they love him. 3. Various are the dispensations of God's grace unto his own. To some he giveth a greater, to others a lesser measure of knowledge of the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, and to one and the same person more at one time than at another. Various are his manifestations and outlettings of grace and love. Small beginnings may come to much at length. Thomas and the rest of his disciples had but little clear and distinct apprehensions of the way of salvation through Jesus Christ, and yet ere all was done, they attained to such a measure of understanding in the mysteries of God, as that we are said to be built upon the foundation of the apostles. Wow. Jesus Christ himself being the chief cornerstone. Ephesians 2 verse 20, which is Ephesians chapter 2 verse 20, New International Version, copyright 1984, all rights reserved. Built on the foundation of the apostles and prophets, with Christ Jesus himself as the chief cornerstone. Time-wise, okay, still good. Okay. This should teach the best sobriety and not to judge of all by themselves, or to think that God's way with them must be a standard or a rule whereby to judge of all the rest, as if his way of dealing were one and the same with all. 4. The knowledge of Christ is all. Know him, and we know heaven, and the way to it. For upon this ground doth Christ make good what he said, touching their knowing whither he went, and the way, and answered the objection that Thomas did propose, this because he was the way, and they begin acquainting with him, which he is preserved, and were ignorant of the place whither he was going, nor of the way leading thither. The knowledge then of Jesus Christ is true and full comprehended of all saving knowledge. Hence, it is life eternal to know him. John 17:3. Which, New International Version, copyright 1984, all rights reserved. Now this is eternal life, that they may know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom you have sent. Time 6:51. And that they know him. They that know him know the Father. John 14:9. Jesus answered. John 14:9, New International Version, 1984, copyright, all rights reserved. Jesus answered, Don't you know me, Philip? Even after I have been among you such a long time? Anyone who has seen me has seen the Father. How can you say, Show us the Father? They that see him see the Father also. John 14:9. He is the Father, and in the Father in him. John 14:10 and 14:11. I'm trying to pull it up now. Okay. 14:10. Do you not believe that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me? The words that I say to you, I do not speak of my own authority, but the Father who dwells in me does his work. And then John 14:11. Believe me, that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me, or else believe on account of the works themselves. And so, knowing him, they know heaven. For what is heaven? For what is heaven else but the presence and glorious manifestations of the Father? For when Christ speaks of his going to heaven, he saith, he was going to the Father. So knowing him, they know the way, both how Christ was to go to heaven as our cautioner, head, and attorney, and how we must follow. Let then a man have never so much knowledge and be acquaintance with the mysteries of all arts and sciences, and with the depths of nature and intrigues of statute, and all the theories of religion. If he be acquaintance with Jesus, he knoweth nothing as he ought to know. And upon the other hand, let a poor soul that is honest and hath some knowledge of and acquaintance with him be satisfied, though it cannot discourage discourse, nor dispute, nor speak to case of conscience as some others. If we know him, it matters not through we be ignorant of so many things, and thereby become less esteemed of by others. Here is the true test by which we may take a right estimate of our own or of others' knowledge. The true rule is true knowledge is not our fine notion, clear and distinct expressions, but heart acquaintance in him, in whom are hid all treasures of wisdom and knowledge. Colossians 2, verse 3. In whom are hidden all treasures of wisdom and knowledge. That was from the New International Version, 1984. Copyright, all rights reserved. Oh, sad that we are not more taken up in this study, which would be a compendious way for us to know all. Why spend we our money for that which is not bread, and our labor for which will not profit us? Why waste our time and spirits in learning this science and that art, when, alas, after we, which much labor and toil, have attained to the yondmost pitch there, we are never one whit the nearer heaven and happiness. Yea, it were well if we were not further off. Oh, if we were wise at length, and could think more of this one thing necessary, and could be stirred up to learn more of him, and to make the subject of all our study and labor. And that ends the introduction of Christ, the way, the truth, and the life. And then we will continue with the next chapter. Peace be with you, my brothers and sisters. I love you. Shalom.